Welcome to Muscle Insoles podcast. Today's guest, Annette Verpillot, a returning guest, is an international recognized posturologist. Posturology focuses on aligning the posture. You guys, if you listen to the first podcast I put out this month, posture is a massive part of performance. If your posture is misaligned, your ability to train at a high level will be dysfunctional, will be limited, let's say. So imagine driving a car like you have a Lamborghini and your wheel alignment is off. The likelihood of you driving that car fast is, certainly not a good idea, we'll say. So Annette and I today discuss ultimately the three main facets of stability and how each is ultimately connected through the nervous system and how these are so massively influencing performance. And when we say performance, it's not just physical performance. It's also mental performance. It's also our ability to recover. So when your nervous system is, let's say, misaligned at the level of the body. So your posture is misaligned. The nervous system isn't allowed to flow. It's not allowed to do what it's meant to do. So it always stays on slightly elevated levels of alert. So Annette offers some amazing, incredible action items to immediately assess your own posture and begin to cultivate a postural balance with exercise that can be done in just literally minutes a day. We kept this episode super short, so it's super actionable for you guys. And at the base of muscle building performance and simply getting to the best shape of your life lies this equilibrium of posture and the nervous system. So thank you to Annette for being here. Thank you to me for being here. And do not sleep on this episode, ladies and gents. Annette and I get into some really valuable information or why you should be spending just a little bit of time every day optimizing your posture. So thank you to Annette Verpillot of PosturePro. And thank you to Mag Breakthrough. Our amazing sponsors at Bioptimizers are continuing to deliver the highest quality products on the planet. And this is no exception. You can head to bioptimizers.com. That's bioptimizers.com and use the code MUSCLE10 for their entire suite of products. My suggestion, every one of you picks up Mag Breakthrough. Every one of you pick up Mass Zymes. Every one of you, if you're on a high-fat diet, I suggest you use Capex. It really helps with the fat breakdown, really helps with the fat absorption and utilization. Some of the other products that I use on a regular basis are the P3OM Proteolytic Probiotic. It's a bit of a tongue twister for me, but an incredible product to help you break down proteins more effectively, help you have a really diverse microbiome so you can digest all the foods you're eating. Ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, just because you're eating food doesn't mean that it's getting absorbed. And Bioptimizers put a lot of time, attention, and research into helping you with your absorption, therefore helping your recovery, helping your performance. I train a lot of clients now, and I notice a lot of them are deficient in certain amino acids, certain vitamins, certain minerals, yet they consume these things. They eat them on a regular basis, but they simply don't have the ability to break them down, to digest, to absorb, and assimilate because of this deficiency in the microbiome, or maybe it's a deficiency in acids in the stomach. So what Bioptimizers has done is they're addressing all of these things. They've got an amazing hydrochloric acid product, the Mass Zymes, the P3OM, and obviously Mag Breakthrough is just an amazing product. It's, I think, their number one product that so many people are using. So head over to bioptimizers.com and use the code MUSCLE10 to get hooked up with 10% off. Enjoy the show with Annette Verpillot. Hey everybody, welcome to Muscle Intelligence Podcast. We're sitting here with my friend and amazing expert when it comes to posture, Annette Verpillot. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, Ben.
Third time back. Always so much to learn. Between the last episode and now, I've had the chance to join you in person and actually go through and experience what you do in real time, which is truly amazing. Like immediate differences, as we noticed, like right there on the spot. We can talk a little bit about that. And obviously the residual differences through both the kind of practices you have me implement every day. And I think just still sticking around from our session together, Annette. So thank you for that.
Thank you. It's really a pleasure to be here and to be able to connect with you again.
Yeah. So I was pretty banged up, right? You looked at me and she kind of made some faces and she made fun of me a little bit. So I was a little bit twisted at the spine. My one shoulder was higher than the other. And this is all something you're able to fix in a matter of just minutes, going through some really simple techniques and modalities, ultimately that. So I'm going to just kind of paraphrase, that ultimately stem from the eyes, the vestibular system, and the bottom of the feet, right? And now you're adding on top of that, maybe the jaw.
Yeah, absolutely. We like to connect all of the different body parts that have a significant impact on the way that our brain controls movement. And what's really exciting about meeting you and doing the assessment on you is the fact that you understand this principle, and you are able to hopefully appreciate how an imbalance with the feet or the eyes can affect your lower back, your pelvis, shoulder mobility, and whatnot. So you weren't that banged up, but it was really nice to finally have you kind of go through the assessment and feel what it's like.
Yeah. So obviously, I've been a big fan for a long time, just to be able to learn from you and listen to what you say. Doing it in person was a whole different level, obviously. So I'm super grateful for that. And what I want to get into today is, keeping the conversation relatively short, I want to get into posture. So as you and I talk about all the time, the prerequisite to performance is posture. You have to make sure you have some semblance of what we'll call, in quotes, structural alignment, which could be different for everybody. But I'd love to have you maybe first walk through if there's any kind of landmarks of what you would say in the body would indicate proper structural alignment versus improper structural alignment.
Yeah, sure. So the simplest way to say it is we need to have synergy between our flexors and their extensors. This is what allows us to fight gravity optimally. So if we're fighting gravity optimally, for lack of a better word, we're wasting the least amount of energy standing upright. So from the moment that there's an imbalance, whether it be on the left side of our body or the right side of our body, and I'm sure you've heard people saying being in bodybuilding and having the experience that you have, I know that I've worked with a lot of athletes that will say to me, they feel that they have one pec or one bicep or even one trap that's overdeveloped than the other. So that's an asymmetry.
Right.
And in the fitness industry, what trainers might not be aware of is that asymmetry is a direct reflection of how the brain is projecting information on the muscular system. So where we stem from, and I have a rehabilitation background, and I worked for a long time just kind of working locally on the problem, whether it be the hip joint, the knee joint, the shoulder joint, or whatnot. And what I decided to start working with to create longer lasting changes was basically looking at how the brain is affecting that joint. And that's what the PosturePro method really is all about. It's a combination of neurology, of information that's already out there with biomechanics. And we kind of bridge the two and created different programs that can be accessed online, from our foot mechanics course to the PosturePro method to even the way that the brain develops reflex and brain development. And the sports performance program, which is the one that we're going to be hosting at your place, is kind of like a mini version of the PosturePro method, which includes all of these different methods. But I think the one thing to mention for the ones that are tuning in is we work with a specific way of assessing what I like to call or refer to as sensory receptors, sensory organ systems. And that's important because if we're going to go back to fighting gravity optimally, wasting the least amount of energy as possible, there are mainly 3 sensory receptors that affect or challenge your stability at all times, and you might not be aware of this. Your feet. So how are you distributing your body weight on both of your feet? That's going to affect your sagittal plane, the way that your eyes are tracking the environment. The moment that we talk about the eyes, the vestibular system is going to kick in. That's another topic in itself. But what I'd like to bring in as a different component is the jaw. And the jaw, feet or eyes are never really looked at in most conventional training programs unless we're dealing with trainers that are somewhat sensitized or aware of the nervous system when it comes to performance.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So when people think of, a spinal misalignment or a spinal torsion or pelvic misalignment, it never starts, the conversation never goes to, it might be your feet, or it might be your eyes, it might be your jaw. But what I saw in working with you and through obviously many years of kind of experimenting with stuff like this is it seems to be the root of a lot of it.
Absolutely. I say that it's the missing link. I think that the future of athletic performance for those that come on board and become the pioneers in this method I think 20 years from now, every single coach will be doing this. And the best example I can give when someone has a hard time, kind of making that link that between the brain and the muscle is when someone has a stroke, what happens to one side of their body, right? They kind of have a hard time using that side of the body. And that's the connection. But the matrix, the drill, we've created drill matrix that allows somebody, and this is where I think it becomes really interesting, is that if you can prevent an injury, that's where you can, and this is really on just for any athlete, any performance, whether they're children, athletes, weekend warriors, a mother or father, or whatnot. If you can prevent an injury and optimize someone's energy, that's more energy to do what you love every single day. And it's aging gracefully. That's what it's about. How many people do we know that, start to break down when they're 30, 40, 50, never mind 60 and 70. So if we can give them the gift of, I like to say, pain-free living through a really simple method, because when you work with the nervous system, it's very fast. You don't really need to, continue this for 20, 30, or even 40 sessions. The exercises are very, very quick and they give really, really fast results.
So someone walks in, let's say someone doesn't have access to you, and we want to assess posture, not even start to treat posture. What are we looking at? So I know it's the balance between flexors and extensors, but I know you're looking at the eyes and how the eyes track. Is the first step in the order just kind of doing an isocod and seeing how the eyes are able to track? Do you have like an order of operations as far as a hierarchy?
Yeah, I do. So I like to always start with the foundation, which is the feet, because we walk with our feet. So that's where you'll find, or you'll be able to see visually if there's been a compensation for years. One of the tests that I like to do is a really simple test. If you just stand up and close your eyes and extend your arms and march in place with your eyes closed. I believe we did that test together, Ben. Then if there's any rotation of the body, either the left side or the right side, then that would indicate that your foot has been compensated. So my order of the hierarchy that I'm going to work with is looking at the feet first, then I'll look at the eyes. Then I'll kind of, work on the feet and the eyes and see what's changed in the body. And last but not least, I like to look at the jaw as well. I do incorporate primitive reflexes, but for the sake of those that want to test themselves, if you've noticed that, you have one shoulder that's lower, or you're taking pictures and your head's always tilted on one side, or you wear out your shoes unevenly, or you feel more comfortable holding your bag on this side in comparison to the other, or even if you have a restricted range of motion of your spinal rotation or trunk rotation, those are all indicative of perhaps postural imbalances.
So every one of those you just listed that I think I've had or I have. I'm like, seriously, I do that sometime. Yep, I do that sometimes too. So where do we begin, right? So if I want to, my objective, let's say over the next year, is I want to optimize my performance. So as a prerequisite, I know that I need to figure out what, I always say, like, driving a car at 100 miles an hour, you're going to get away with it. You push to 200 miles an hour plus, you're going to know really quickly when your alignment is broken, right? When your alignment is off even 1 degree. So the stronger you get, the more difficult it becomes, or the more accurate you have to be with your posture and with your alignment. So as people start to get stronger, lift heavier, and push harder, super important to make sure the alignment is in order. So what do we do for the feet? So we said start with the feet, and I can look at somebody's feet and go, your feet are definitely broken. I look at them and I'm curious what you would see. Like, I'll look at people's feet, I'll just they look like clubs. It looks like they just don't have any muscle. It's like, I'm just kind of like lumps of tissue, right? It's like it's a lump of bone and muscle or just tissue. Some people, as you see these like really springy feet, right? They've got good musculature. I'm like, oh, you're probably really healthy. You probably have great posture, great feet, great athleticism. But some people have like misformed toes, like one's pointing this way, one's pointing that way. All this, from my perspective, is probably a result of just poor footwear since they were children. So what are our kind of first courses of action?
Yeah, no, you nailed it, Ben. The thing is that the foot has the potential to create an imbalance in your body, but via 3 different pathways. So I'd like to say this: whenever there's pain or imbalances, it's always multifactorial, meaning that it's either the feet, the eyes, or both, or even the jaw, or all three of them that are causing the imbalance in what you're seeing right now. So if we just focus on the foot for the sake of explaining this, there's really three different pathways that can send improper feedback to your nervous system. One, there's going to be the muscles, the joints, and the skin. All of those pathways go through different parts of your brain. The brain interprets this information and then projects onto your flexors and extensors. This is happening unconsciously. You're not really thinking about this consciously. And this is why it's so hard to correct the foot imbalance through exercises. Now, any proprioceptive exercises, foot proprioception exercises that you do are great. Why? Because they involve a part of the brain called the cerebellum. So anything that you do that involves stability, for example, standing on one leg, standing on a post, doing these drills, using an elastic or whatnot, are going to involve your inner ear. And the moment that the inner ear is involved, you're going to involve your cerebellum. And the cerebellum is going to have an impact on the intrinsic muscles of all the joints of your body. So that's great. But what I'd like to propose are different methods, because what I was challenged with in my practice was, how can we create that stimulation 24/7? Because it's about getting the same amount of feedback that you've had for X amount of years. So for example, if you've been walking with feet that are misaligned, and I've done some videos on how to test if you have a foot imbalance on our YouTube channel, but let's say you have an imbalance with your feet and you've been walking with crooked feet for, we'll just say 1 year. Come into someone's office and they work on you or do some drills for an hour. So that's 365 days versus an hour. The gap is too great for those changes to stick. However, you may feel better, but we're talking about creating permanent changes. So if we know that pain is multifactorial, and if we understand the way that the nervous system functions, if we can create a scenario where the nervous system is receiving sensory stimulation for an amount of 10,000 hours, then you can start to see that balance even out. And the way that we've created that is that we've actually designed what we call postural insoles. They're not orthotics. And their role is to basically stimulate the parts of the brain that work on muscle tone. And they're actually based on the principle of acupressure and reflexology on the foot. And they specifically work with the premise of using either wedge technology, which is no greater than 3 millimeters, and frequency. Why frequency? Because the body is frequency, so that we can target those specialized sensory receptors in the skin that have an effect on the brain, on the way that the brain is controlling movement, and on the cerebellum. So if we can give that stimulation for 10,000 hours, which ends up being 6 weeks, along the side with some eye exercises, then we can start to actually change fascia, muscle tension, and we see changes in session, but our goal is to get these changes on a permanent basis.
That's awesome. So much value there. Obviously, we're going to definitely link to the show notes so people can pick up your PosturePro insoles, which I currently use them, as I said, are great. Another thing I noticed is just less overall ache. Even if I'm training hard, there's not a lot of joint discomfort. It almost feels like my joints feel loose. It feels like they're balanced again. Whereas, if I sit a lot when I'm working, it can definitely kind of cause a little bit of tension in my knees, my back. It doesn't feel right. And as soon as I felt like I wear those for any small amount of time, it kind of puts me back into alignment. So super grateful for that. Okay, so we move up the chain then. So if someone notices that their jaw is chew, or maybe you can walk through how we would assess it, but I think it's pretty simple. It's if you have an overbite, if you're kind of chewing more on one side, if you're noticing it's going off to one side or the other. I'd love to have you just talk about through the couple points of assessment and then how we start to maybe fix it.
Yeah, I love it. So the foot has 3 ways that it can decompensate or have an effect on your posture. The jaw is the same thing. Mm-hmm. So we're talking about the muscles of the jaw, the actual joint, and the teeth. So all 3 create an entry point into your brain. And now we're talking about your primitive brain. This is really important because your primitive brain, which is the brainstem, is the part of the brain that regulates everything that is unconscious in your body. And when we're talking about the jaw, we're talking about the trigeminal nerve, which has an effect on every single function in your body, from digestion to hormone production, to your ability to manage stress, and so on and so forth. So 3 things to look for with the jaw. If you cannot put 3 of your fingers in your mouth like this without feeling any pain, then your jaw is probably creating an imbalance with your posture. Next, when you open your mouth, when you take your index and put it right here and open your mouth, if you feel some screeching or scratching or kind of like, right, then your joint is being compromised and it is affecting your posture as well. I'm going to add one more thing is when you look at your teeth from the front, if you have a crossbite, which is basically the lower part of your jaw, if it's either deviated to the left or to the right, when your teeth are in contact, which is referred to as a crossbite, that is also going to create an imbalance in the transverse plane. So if you were to look at yourself from the top, you may have a protraction of your shoulder and or a posterior glute. Now think about that when it comes to squatting. If your jaw is the cause behind your glute that is posterior or your pelvis that continuously rotates unevenly when you squat, then no amount of therapy that you're going to do on your body is going to help change that permanently unless you address the jaw. So 3 pathways that the jaw can affect this: teeth, muscle, joint. And we're presently releasing, we're talking a little bit about it, and I'd still love to mention, we're releasing an online certification, a new online certification that's going to be specifically focusing on how to test every single little thing about the jaw and how to determine actually if you do have an imbalance with your jaw and how to restore proper proprioception through this online certification. And it's going to go live. The pre-launch price is $129 instead of $249. Goes live as of today. We're actually going to launch it right after this call. And just very quickly, content: jaw development, jaw and posture, teeth and tongue, mouth breathing versus nose breathing, jaw for sports performance, the missing link, jaw and power, jaw and brain development, sympathetic overload, digestion and mouth breathing, and individualized assessments. And that's going to be covering everything that you'd need to know in regards to the jaw and how to correct it very naturally.
That's awesome. So it sounds like to me, the demographic for that, like there's a lot of people out there seeing benefits from currently wearing mouth guards. Okay, the specific company I can't think of that kind of perpetuates the performance benefits. So people like powerlifters, pro athletes, hockey players, football players, dentists would be these type of people that you want to appeal to in this audience, right? Like dentists would probably want to understand how to correct the jaw. I'm guessing they have no experience in that. And if they can give people relief, maybe they can alleviate some of the dental problems that they're experiencing, as well as probably headaches. So anyone experiencing headaches would definitely benefit from this course. That sounds like it's definitely, all the courses you put out are amazing. You did the walking and foot mechanics course for us, and that was so good. Like all of my mentorship coaches, at least a lot of them did. And we just got so much value from your ability to walk through, what does it look like to actually improve walking mechanics through all the different cycles. And so, we'll talk about that on the next podcast. We're going to end today's podcast on talking a little bit about the eyes. So maybe walking us through how we assess the eyes and then maybe a few action items for Sakalds.
Yeah, so the eyes is super easy. If you have a pen right next to you, finger, there you go. The way to assess your eyes is you simply put the pen or the finger right on your nose. And what's going to be important is that the top of your finger is right at the level of your eyes, right? Not too low, not too high. And then I'm going to ask you to look at the tip of your finger as best as you can.
I can tell I'm already losing it. My right eye is not very happy.
And hold it right there if you can. So you're not too bad, Ben. You had a little delay, but you caught up, and now you're able to hold the fixation. So what we're looking for here, can you do it for us? Pretend you're looking to the right.
Like
there you go. Yeah. No, without moving your head. There you go. So this would be, if you see this naturally, then there's an imbalance with your eyes. And the easiest way that I can explain this, if your left eye is looking at the finger and your right eye is looking at the wall, right? Those are two different images that are going into your brain. Now, remember that vision trumps all other senses. Your brain will believe what it sees above anything else. So if the images going into your brain are not the same, the brain has to make a choice. Where is the body in relation to what I'm seeing? Your ability to calculate distances properly, even your ability to move, and even your perception of what you think you're seeing is going to be falsified. So one really easy trick that I do to be able to restore that proper contraction between the both eyeballs are eye exercises. Now get this, if you're able to do them properly, that means slowly, take your time, stress-free, do very small circles and control the movement as you're doing those eye exercises. That's the equivalent of training 1 full hour in the gym, muscle-wise, for 45 seconds. Why? Because your eyes borrow the same pathways in your brain that control the intrinsic muscles of your spine. So when you work out your eyes, in other words, it's almost like you've just done an hour of Pilates or yoga or, back muscle or whatnot. But on the other hand, it also ensures that your body is aligned. So how do you do those exercises? Again, I've done many videos about it on my YouTube channel. If you guys want to have
a link to it for sure.
Yeah, a real, close-up of it is simply doing some circular circles right in front of your face and really, really slowly, a little bit like how we did together when you were in clinic. So focus on the finger. Try to go, that's too fast, Ben. Slower. And try to make sure that your index is straight. It's a little bit inclined this way. So,
well, I'm use the other hand then.
Oh yeah, there you go.
I don't know, extra rotation.
Yeah. So if you're right-handed, ideally would be your right hand. Try to keep your index straight if you can. And what you want to do is you want to focus on that finger. And you'll see that Ben is following. You see his eyes are moving, so we can tell he's following the target. Now, to make this more challenging, just not as fast, smaller circles in front of your eyes. And bring it up a little bit. There we go. Slowly, just take it down a notch. Yeah, circles. Bring the finger a little closer, Ben. That's it. Do you feel that your eyes are pulling, like it's pulling in do you feel like your eyes are working out?
The bright light is annoying, but other than that, I'm okay.
Okay. All right. So for those of you that are starting off, this would be the exercise for at least 30 to 45 seconds. And for those that just start off, it's normal to feel, and if you feel discomfort, like your eyes are straining, that's okay. It just means that your eyes are working out. So doing this exercise, I love to start the 30-day challenge of doing these eye exercises to see if you've noticed the difference. And this is what I would recommend pre and post. So whatever your issue is, shoulder problem, back pain, knee flexion, cervical rotation, or whatnot, test it pre and post. So test your shoulder flexion, for example, do those eye exercises, do them well, and then test shoulder flexion again and see if there's an improvement. If there is an improvement, that means that you've identified which sensory receptor is causing the imbalance, for example, in that specific joint. So this would be a way for you to work by process of elimination.
That's so cool. And tell us about the course. You're only in course at my gym in Tampa. What's the dates? I always do this to you. You're like, oh,
I always do this. Sorry, backwards. I never know the dates off the top of my head, but
Okay, well, we'll link to it in show notes because it's soon.
It is very soon, and it is happening at your place. This I know, and the location is, and the dates are April 23rd, 2022.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So it's MI40 gym in Tampa.
2 days.
2 days. Honestly, your content is so great, and anyone who we'll talk about who should go, coaches, people who just want to optimize their body and their posture. Now I'm realizing dentists, maybe physical therapists. Who are your typical audience?
Anyone who, obviously anybody who's working on the body already now, regardless of what your background is, you'll be able to benefit from this, but also for just anyone who's looking to optimize. If you're someone who wants to understand how to blend in neurology in simple terms into performance enhancement. Again, performance enhancement doesn't have to just be sports. Could be reading better, understanding what you read, just understanding, even in schooling and whatnot, even with kids, If you're interested in learning how to optimize that system, then this would be a great add-on to what you already have in your toolbox.
I love it. Definitely. It's definitely not for just for practitioners. It's going to be, certainly utilizable for people who are practitioners or trainers or coaches.
Absolutely.
But also people who just want to optimize their body, right? As we say, posture is the foundation of everything we do. And as a dad, I want to be someone who has the ability to recognize these issues in my children and have the tools to correct them. So anyone out there, what's the website, Annette?
Education.posturepro.co.
Amazing. We'll link to it in the show notes. Thank you very much, Annette. You're going to come back again and teach us a few more action items in the next podcast.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap, ladies and gents. Thank you very much for being here. I won't take any more time. I just want to say thank you to yourself. Thank you to Annette. Hopefully you found huge amounts of value. If you did, share this podcast with at least one person you know and love, maybe 5 people you know and love, because this was a great show. I absolutely love Annette. I think she's a gift. I think she does an incredible job of helping us optimize our posture. And to summarize, it's important to know that your posture is being assessed through your feet, through your eyes, through your vestibular system. But now Annette says the jaw as well. And without those things in alignment, you will always run into injuries. You always get out the shoulder tweaks or the knee tweaks. Even if you're like, my feet don't hurt or whatever doesn't hurt, everything's connected. Right. So if one thing is out of alignment, so is everything else. So, and it may be degrees, it may be in the beginning be a small degree, but eventually it's going to be a lot. And so my suggestion is, if your objective is to live your greatest life, you want the ability to go fast. I want the ability to run, to lift, to jump, to play. And to do that, posture should be the base of it all, which is why intentionally we started this month with posture, because I want each and every one of you guys to address it, to pay attention to it. It doesn't mean spend hours a day. It doesn't even need to spend months and months. Just like learn about it, think about it, pay attention to it so that you can ultimately improve it. Thanks for being here, guys. Have a great day. Live your greatest life in a body you love.
Thank you so much for tuning into Muscle Intelligence. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to share it with at least one person you know. And make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an episode. This podcast is for information purposes only. The statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Ben Pakulski and the producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. This podcast may contain paid endorsements or advertisements for products or services. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.